Hi, so I'm Shae Spitz here in Unscripted. So again, I'm not the greatest at all of this, but I am here with Erin Nahorny, and we are going to be talking about Sammy superheroes today.
Yay.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we were kind of talking a little bit before about Sammy's and how it all got started. So I kind of want to bring that back and, you tell me how that all got started.
Sure. So Sam was diagnosed with stage 4 high-risk neuroblastoma.
Your son.
Sam is my son, yep.
Okay.
And at that time, he went by Sammy. Still does sometimes, but he was diagnosed in July of 2012. And it was one of those, it's impossible to really describe that, but, your world is just completely turned upside down. And he went through really intense treatment for the first several months, actually first 2 years. Traveled all over the country for his treatments. And, it was just a really crazy time in our lives. I ended up having to leave my job that I loved, but it was a full-time job to be with him. Mm-hmm. It turned into learning nursing. We gave shots. We started food and nutrition, fluids. We would do all of that from home. I mean, it was intense for a long time. And also the traveling, and living other places. And it was hard. Mm-hmm. It was hard on all of us, maybe Sam the least, to be totally honest. The other kids, where we would be gone for weeks, months, that was really a difficult time in all of our lives. But, so that's kind of, not detailed, but that's kind of when he was diagnosed. It's been 9 years. It's crazy. Yeah. I just can't believe that. He's 13. He's an 8th grader.
You would never know.
No.
You would never know.
No.
So I guess, he was diagnosed about 9 years ago. And how did Sammy Superheroes actually start? Because I'm sure that you guys didn't anticipate getting to the level that you are at with Sammy Superheroes. And we'll kind of jump into that a little bit later on how big you guys are. But where did that all start from?
So when he was diagnosed, the next day, literally, he was having surgery to remove this primary tumor. And the tumor was 19 centimeters. Big, huge.
And how old was Sammy?
He was 4.
4?
In his tum, it starts in the adrenal gland, so it sits just above your kidney is where the tumor was. And when he was diagnosed, stage 4, meaning it had metastasized to his bones, bone marrow, lymph nodes. It was just kind of everywhere. In fact, his primary symptom was leg pain. And when the doctor came in, those moments are just sealed. He said, this is what we think it is. We think it's stage 4 because the leg pain indicates that it's in his bones, And so just an unbelievable time. And it's, we don't sit and talk about this part very often because it was just traumatic, honestly. But so he was having surgery 2 days later, and my girlfriends, 3 of my girlfriends, Kim Brandenburg and Mary Sieper, who I went to high school with, and Amy Williams, who was my first Columbus friend when we moved back here, sent me this picture. I'll have to show it to you. It's super cute. Mm-hmm. This picture of the 3 of them blowing us a kiss with this picture that they had drawn of a Superman, the Superman shield with this big gold ribbon around it. And said, we're Sammy's superheroes. We're going to...
Oh, I got goosebumps.
Yeah, so we're going to do this for him, And the next thing I knew, they were having T-shirts printed, and they, we had... This is just what happens in a small town. We have friends that were really connected at all 3 of the high schools. So Amy Williams is the cheerleading coach. Her husband's the football coach at Columbus High. My kids, of course, are in the Catholic school system. Mm-hmm. And we had some good friends, Alyssa Hoagland and Abby Tessendorf, who were at Lakeview and kind of made those connections to sell these T-shirts. So they sold them at the football games that fall. Mm-hmm. And everybody had them. So Amy always tells people that the start of Sammy Superheroes was her slinging T-shirts out of her garage. I swear they didn't park in their garage for 6 months. They were just boxes and boxes of T-shirts.
Oh my gosh.
And, I've talked to other people who were at Columbus High at that time, and they, they remember the hallway was lined with these boxes of T-shirts, and what is this? What's happening? It It was so crazy and so much support. And I think part of that is because my husband and I both grew up here, we had moved back to Columbus. So we did have a lot of, connections in a lot of different ways from, over the years. And so, so they were selling these t-shirts and we were super busy in treatment. So we were like living in Omaha. And so it was maybe November, December, I don't know, somewhere in there that Amy Williams called me. It was late at night. I was in the hospital with Sam. It's like 11. She's a night owl. And she said, we have to talk about something. And I was like, what? She goes, I have $40,000 in my checking account and I don't know what to do. And I was like,
from the t-shirts.
From the t-shirts.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, what? Oh my gosh, that is crazy. But yeah, it can't probably just sit in your checking account, So she then talked to Sarah Pillen, who's a friend of ours, kind of all grew up together. And Sarah offered to do paperwork so that we could, become a 501c3, a nonprofit foundation, and then give that money to something. So we weren't sure at that time what we wanted to do with it, just that,
you couldn't just keep $40,000 and you wanted to put it somewhere.
Right.
So what was the intent when they started selling t-shirts? I guess, what was the intent? Was it just to kind of raise awareness for Sammy's and they just ended up having more money than they expected?
Honestly, I don't know if there was an intent.
Yeah.
They just wanted to show support to us at that time. And then they ended up with a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think if it had been a couple $1,000s, maybe it could have helped with travel expenses or this or that or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was so much that we all, had to take a step back and think about what are we
a bigger
going to
picture
do with
almost.
this now. And then it wasn't shortly after that they told us Sam wasn't responding to treatment. It was like within a couple weeks, and that we were going to have to find a specialist, travel, figure it out somewhere else. Like they didn't have what he was going to need in Omaha. And so that was when we went to Chicago then. That would be January of 2013. It was end of December, right after Christmas we went. And he had a stem cell transplant there, and we stayed in Chicago for 6 weeks. He was inpatient for several weeks, and then we had to stay there for a couple weeks. And anyway, it was kind of during that time that when he went off the protocol and we had to start traveling, that we started to really learn a lot about the statistics, because before that it was just, automatic. We just did what they told us, and we didn't do a lot of research, and we didn't really know a whole lot about the dire situation, about drugs not being approved for kids and all of that. So I think him going off the protocol was kind of pivotal in us deciding that we had to do something different for other kids.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. So that was kind of your pivotal point to take it to the next level, basically. And then you guys kind of started hitting it harder with Sammy Superheroes to raise awareness for childhood cancer. Because where do you guys sit, fast forward, where do you guys sit now with Sammy Superheroes? I mean, obviously you have a board and you have staffing. I mean, is that correct? What does all that look like?
Yeah. So we were in the process of hiring an executive director, and then COVID hit. So currently we are... we're in the process actually of hiring again, but we kind of took a step back during the COVID year. That was, didn't feel like as a nonprofit that would be the right thing to do, to hire someone when things were so crazy and we had to cancel our events and things like that. So, but yes, we have a board. We have 10 board members. We had to get official at some point, follow Robert's Rules of Order and figure out how do you run a board meeting, all this stuff. And I think, I've said this to you before, but Sammy Superheroes was going to happen with or without us. It was just kind of a movement that started. And then, as we started to meet other families in Columbus that had been diagnosed and then were diagnosed after Sam, and, it just kind of became this community of support amongst families. And then, of course, we were traveling and meeting families all over and started sending them care packages. And Sam had received this blanket when we went to Boston for a treatment. And it was like that minky, that super soft blanket. And it was just his favorite, still is his favorite. And so we started sending those blankets to kids. And just kind of a really special thing. You know, this is Sam's favorite thing, and so we want to share this with you too.
So Sammy Superheroes isn't just locally. I mean, it's how big is Sammy's Superheroes?
Well, so January of end of 2019 actually, and then we had a big check presentation in January of 2020. We donated our $1,000,000th to research. So
really,
yeah, so that was really significant for us.
Yeah. And have you seen like a return? So all the donations that you've been making, do you figure out or find out what that money actually goes towards, and you know if they are getting further in this research?
So we have a medical review board. They help us pick projects. Doctors from kind of all over the country send in their research projects for us to review, and then we pick the projects that we want to support and fund. So we've funded projects at Dana-Farber, which is Boston Children's, Harvard, Duke University. We've funded projects at the Med Center here. Iowa Stead Children's Hospital has, where they do the wave to the kids. So they just kind of really just got rolling with their research program. We funded a project there last year. Where else? I don't know. So we've donated to projects all over the country. Seattle.
That's
Seattle
amazing.
Children's.
That's amazing. I remember seeing a video or a live video of 2 girls in Omaha who ended up shaving their head to raise awareness. Is that right? Didn't that happen last year?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago? Oh
yeah, it was in 19. And then we just had our event in Omaha 2 weeks ago. And they came.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they had hair. They're like, hey, I didn't even recognize them. I was like, oh my gosh, girls.
That is amazing.
So
That's
awesome.
amazing. Yeah. So
they raised $12,000 doing that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And they're young girls. So not having hair would really affect them, I'm sure, in school. I mean, obviously they did it for a reason and to raise awareness, but how amazing for them.
So funny because their parents were like, we didn't really want them to do that, but they were just
adamant about it. Yeah. That is so amazing. And so September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Is that right? So that's why you guys have had.
We do a lot in September.
Yes.
Just because it's a time that I think everybody's just sort of like embraces it, and let's really push awareness right now. Yeah. Of course, it's a year-round effort, but September is, a busy time for us and most foundations like ours.
Yeah. Yeah. And so without an executive director at this point in time, I'm sure you're pretty swamped busy with just helping manage all of it.
Yeah. A lot of volunteer effort right now by our board. And we have volunteers that have volunteered with us for the whole entire time, that have been involved for a long time. We have other cancer parents that, are involved. So this last weekend at golf, we had 2 families who have lost their children that are local in Columbus. So Budlers and Luckies, and they both families were involved with the event and helped with lots of different things. And I know that for them it must be it's hard for cancer parents in general, but I think for them to be involved like that is just it would be really difficult, but they know how important it is.
Yeah, just getting out there and being part of the community and getting involved with everything else and everybody else, and just having that community and relating to other people who, maybe not have lost somebody, but at least have gone through that heartache.
Right.
I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine. Well, I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I have obviously found Sammy's Superhero has found a soft spot in my heart as well, because obviously I can relate to you. Yeah. And then anybody who has kids who have been diagnosed, they've been the same age as my kids now. So my heart really goes out to those families. And I want to do whatever I can financially to help raise that awareness, because, I don't know how anybody does it. So I truly appreciate everything that you guys have done, especially because all these hours, I'm sure, is like volunteer work for you. Yeah. So not just for me, but everybody else out there, everything that you guys have done for Sammy's Superheroes and raising that awareness and just sending those care packages. That's amazing. Yeah. Getting that comfort. We had just 3 diagnoses in the last 2 days. One a friend of mine from high school's daughter was diagnosed. And, it's like sometimes you get burned out. I'm sure, with different things, and especially the volunteer things. It's hard. It's easy to just like feel overwhelmed, and and then when that happens, it's like, okay, like this is why I'm still going. Everybody, like, round the troops and let's figure this out and help them and do what we can here. So, I never want. I think for me, the whole purpose of doing Sammy's is that I want this to be different for other families at some point, and
I really hope that it will be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if somebody wants to learn more about Sammy Superheroes, and I know you sent me a link, I guess where can they go to find out more information and read up about it?
Yep. Our website is sammysuperheroes.org. And so I would just get on our website, our Facebook page, lots of statistics that people can share. You know, you were a gold sponsor for our event last weekend, and I appreciate all of, you know, the support that you've given, and so many other people too. And, but the awareness part of it is big too. I mean,
yes.
we've always said since the beginning, you know, with awareness is going to come the funding, because people, once they start to know the statistics and the dire need for research for kids, and that it's not funded, it's funded by families like us that are doing the private.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I liked how you guys had all those signs out there with all the statistics. It was like heartbreaking to drive by each of those signs, but at the same time, it brought that awareness to the upfront of our minds when we're driving around and you have those statistics, you know, that one in every, I'm sure you know them like the back of your hand, but
So childhood cancer is the #1 cause of death by disease in children, and only receives 4% of federal cancer research dollars. 80% of kids are stage 4 diagnosis. Like all these things, there's only 4 drugs that are approved for kids. So kids just get adult drugs. You know, there's all these things that once you start to go through it, you're like, how is this okay?
Yeah.
How is this,
we are living in 2021.
Right.
How
is this happening?
Yeah.
And I think we were so blindsided by that stuff that that's why we do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I appreciate everything that you guys have done, and I'm sure all the community here, and then all the families that you guys have helped support too, just means a lot. So we truly appreciate that.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here and kind of explaining all of that. Obviously, I know a little bit about it, but not to anything the extent that you have the knowledge in. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erin. Have a good day.
Thanks, Shae.